action.
Action.
Thank you, Greg. Good. Cut. Reset.
We were the proud recipient of a grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities to create a video that will be used as part of our education program. And 2 weeks ago, we were blessed to have some wonderful folks, a broad range of people, from donors to members of the community to politicians, volunteers for the Colebrookdale Railroad, people we've never met before, folks from 2 local theaters come and lend their talent and their expertise and their time on what had to be the 2 hottest days of the year so far, in full Victorian costume here at the railroad to partake in this filming. And so the grant that we got from the National Endowment for the Humanities was to create a movie for children that talked about why this particular area, the area that's traversed by the Colebrookdale Railroad, was really an industrial hearth for colonial and early America. The film was using a period, roughly the first decade of the 20th century. That period chosen because it was kind of the halcyon time of American railroading. Much of what you see here would have been here at that time. But it also was a time period that you hadn't seen many of the technological advances that came after the First and Second World Wars, which dramatically would have changed the landscape and the experience on board the train. But you still would have seen at least vestiges of the technology and some of the social mores that had existed during the time when this area was transitioning from essentially wilderness to the industrial hearth of America. And so in 1910 you would have seen early automobiles, some of which were made here, but at the same time horse and wagons and horse and buggy were still in place. And so there's really this transitional time for not just railroads, but also much of the technology that made this area very important in the history of America. The video has 2 primary purposes. One, as an introduction to the railroad and the experience, educational experience that you'll have here. The second is in lieu of coming to ride the railroad. So if for whatever reason they're not able to come here, or there's distance or pandemic, that they're able to get the educational lesson or some portion of it without actually having to come here. I think there's a natural appeal of trains and history to children because in some ways it appears like it's a fictional story, but in fact it's not. It's a true story that underlies who we are and how we got here, so sort of magical in 2 ways. But so much of that period is bright and colorful and exciting and dynamic, and I think this film really captures it, even in a very small way, but I think the children are very much going to enjoy that. I know, as a child of 45 years of age, I enjoyed when the horse and wagon showed up. That was very exciting. So I think there's something for everyone in the film.
So the gas lamps that we have in the Boyertown area are actually a really interesting story. They were the original gas lamps from both Philadelphia and Baltimore from about 1870. They lit both of those towns for about 100 years, and then around the 1970s they were actually removed. A fellow had purchased them, I believe, with the intent of restoring them and using them for some project that I don't believe actually came to fruition. And Nathaniel and I had actually happened upon a sign along the road down in New Jersey. It was actually near Cape May a number of years ago. It was a sign along the road covered in weeds that just said gas lamps or lamp posts on it. We didn't know what it meant, but it sparked our interest enough that we actually turned around. We drove down a long dirt road to a house. We assumed the house had some sort of affiliation with the sign. So we spoke to the fellow that lived there, and it turns out it was his grandfather who had originally saved all of these lampposts, and they were just piled up in what was now woods. Woods had actually grown up around these piles of lampposts. That's how long they had actually been sitting there. So we bought everything that he had, brought them back to Boyertown, and we actually fully restored all of them, recreated the missing parts, all new heads that were missing, new glass, everything like that. They were all refinished and powder coated, and we installed them in the yard here. So now they'll be hopefully lighting up the Boyertown yard here for many, many years. The other style that we have, which we consider our English style lights, and those are the ones that are actually between our tracks on the brick walkway. They are original English style lights. They're actually much, much older than the Philadelphia lights that we have. They were originally installed in Glasgow in Scotland. So they were in that same pile of lights. Don't actually know where the guy originally got those, but luckily he did have the foresight to save them, and they're now a really prominent feature in our yard. They're actually the only gas lamps that we have that actually have a real open flame to them. The style is called a maple leaf flame, so it's a multiple shape to the flame, and they glow and they sparkle, and they give just a really beautiful aura when you walk through the yard in the evening. It's really kind of magical.